Welcome to the Wise Wolf Gold and Crypto Show. I'm your host, Tony Arterburn. We're live on Aftermath.fm. This is episode number 2. Way better than last week because I have my co-pilot, co-host, Kinsey is here. That leaves Beans to be in charge of production. And that's where she likes to be. Beans doesn't like to co-host. She likes to do security. She likes to do production. She books guests. Beans the Brave in studio, folks. We got a great show for you, too. For those of you who missed last week, I just did an hour-long rant. I didn't have commercials. I didn't have any bumpers. I think I talked for like 10 minutes before somebody said, hey, the radio.co, the mic is not working. I said, okay, great. And then, but at least I recorded it, so it made a good podcast. But anyway, we are ready to bring you the latest and greatest on precious metals, the monetary system, wealth and warfare, all that good stuff from bullion to Bitcoin. This is the Wise Wolf Gold and Crypto Show. So, Kinsey, welcome back. Welcome to the show. Let's dive in. Do I still got you on the line? We did have Kinsey. Kinsey, I got you.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I hear you now. All right.
Cool.
All right, we fixed that. Okay. So just a couple of glitches. Not too bad. Not too bad. All right. So I talked to you off air, and we decided that we're going to cover the first half of the show, talk about gold and silver. Then so Kinsey's specialty. She's Gen Z, ladies and gentlemen. This is a deep dive researcher. She has a show called Fringe Files over on YouTube. She's been a guest on InfoWars, many other platforms. People seek out her knowledge, like like the Oracle at Delphi, especially when it comes to crypto. She's also a silver guru, many talents, but she's young, and she balances me out, because if you guys listen to my radio show, if you're familiar with what I do, I can be a bit of a curmudgeon, and I tend to be overly pessimistic sometimes, and hey, sometimes I'm right though. Okay, so don't give me too hard of a time. But anyway, Kinsey, I wanted to dive in and talk about gold prices, and you and I were talking off air, because people are confused about gold and why it doesn't just explode. Like, why isn't it going parabolic? Like, why is gold not like Bitcoin? But yeah, it is funny, because we see all these and folks, stay tuned for the second half, because we're going to talk about some of the latest in the the area of shitcoin, for lack of a better term, in cryptocurrency, and some of the consequences of that. And Kinsey's done some great research and some digging. But I was looking at a video that was up, and it's on Zero Hedge. It's 3 minutes. I wanted to play it because it's Peter Schiff, and I don't agree with Peter Schiff on everything. I like a lot of his research, especially on precious metals, but he had something to say, and he said it really well, and it had to do with the everybody's talking about inflation now. It's funny, because we never talked about inflation 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, even though it had been creeping and creeping and creeping, people didn't talk about it. But since the last year of Trump's presidency, when they printed 40% of all the dollars ever made were made in 2020, and I mean, like, not from made in our lifetime, like made ever. So they made those dollars, created them to prop up the multinationals and all of their criminal friends on Wall Street, and the international banking cartels and all this stuff, right? So they printed everything, and it causes the prices to go up, because the dollar loses strength and loses value. And I thought I would bring this up first, because it really, I thought, summed up the issue really well. So you guys stand by. I'm going to play a clip. This is Peter Schiff. It's about 3 minutes long, and it's talking about the price of gold and why gold hasn't skyrocketed. And then I have something. That I worked out. This is an exclusive because I did this off the air with a calculator, and I want to share it with the audience live on air. Let's see if I make some math mistakes after the clip. Here you go. Here's Peter Schiff.
Somebody's asking me a question on when gold will go up. Well, I mean, gold's been going up, hasn't gone up that much recently, but if you go back to the beginning of this decade or century rather, 2000, that's when the NASDAQ bubble peaked. That's when the gold price was really at the bottom of a 20-year bear market that it entered into in 1980. And remember, in 1980, gold was very expensive. It was at $850 an ounce. It had risen from $35 an ounce at the beginning of the decade to $850 at the end. Then, of course, we had Paul Volcker, Ronald Reagan. We had 20% interest rates, and that saved the dollar. That brought the price of gold back down. Of course, it never went anywhere near the $35 an ounce that it started from. But it did get back below 300. It was below 300, as a matter of fact, in 2000. And then it had a big rise from 2000 to from under 300 to over 2000 was the run that it's been on recently. It's now pulled back, below 1800. But if you look at what's been happening to the price of gold so far this, this century, this millennium even, it's been pretty strong. Now, people, maybe they expect gold to act like Bitcoin. It's not going to act like Bitcoin. It's a real asset, and it's a real market, and it's not going to have that kind of parabolic move unless, of course, you have a complete implosion of the dollar, which is certainly not off the table as far as what may happen in the future. But if that's the case, it's really not the price of gold going up. It's just the value of the dollar going down. And so you need more and more dollars to buy an ounce of gold. But I do think that the price of gold is going to resume the upward trend and move much higher than 2000 as people really digest the enormity of the problem that exists, as they come to terms with the fact that inflation is not only not transitory, it's here to stay. It's going to get much worse, and the Fed can't do anything about it, at least not that they're willing to do, without creating another financial crisis, which they won't do. And even if they inadvertently created a financial crisis, we already know what their response would be more inflation. They would print more money. They would bail everybody out. And so ultimately, kind of that's going to be positive for gold as well. So people just have to be patient when it comes to the price of gold, but the direction is already clear, and that's up, and it's been going up for some time.
So what do you think about that, Kenzie?
Sorry. I got to listen to the last half of that. I 100% agree. I actually had a conversation with a man at the gas pumps today who was talking about everything around his life is getting more and more expensive. And me and my partner brought it up that, what if it is the US dollar is just worth less? And his eyes really lit up, and it all kind of clicked right in that moment. I don't know if he was surprised that maybe, the younger generation understands that, but it seemed to all really click for him right in that moment, when it's not the price of goods around us necessarily going up. It is that your dollar doesn't go as far.
Right. And it's not transitory. I'm a bearer of bad news. It's here to stay. I keep telling people, I'm like, there isn't going to be a pullback on these prices. It's permanent. The damage that's been done, and they were able to hide it, I think, over the years a lot better. But now that they've just gone extreme, and Peter mentioned something at the beginning of that clip, and I thought was really telling, because you get in your time machine, you reverse engineer these prices of where we are right now. And for the audience, I mean, look, I'm not a math wizard. I'm not an expert in any way. I'm not a financial advisor, but let's do some math together. Let's just reason this out. If you look at gold in 2000, it was $300, like Peter just said. Gold was $300 an ounce in the year 2000, and the national debt was around 5 trillion. I know this because I've tracked history pretty well on the debt clock. Well, you look at I saw Rand Paul tweeted out, his Halloween costume in 2010 was he was really scary because the national debt was 10 trillion. And most people don't realize that's the national debt, the compilation of debt that we've had from 1776 until the modern day. It's not like it's the modern debt, it's the debt from all time, right? So they doubled the debt from 2000 to 2010. They doubled the debt in just 10 years. So if you take that and you take gold at 300 an ounce in the year 2000, and then you double the debt from 5 trillion to 10 trillion, that takes you to gold at $600 an ounce. Well, let's double it again. Let's take it to 20 trillion and you get $1,200 an ounce. Well, now we're at $30 trillion. Okay. So we're going to times the 1,200 times 1.5, exactly where we are today. It's 1,800. 1,800. That's the minimum amount that gold is worth. I think it's worth more, but I just tracked that in real time. That means that gold, unlike stocks and unlike a lot of these, paper assets and garbage, right? A lot of these financial, these black holes, for lack of a better term, that people throw their money into, the modern monetary theory. Gold stays true because it clocks the rate of decline and the rate of inflation. So just wanted to bring that up. I know that's a little cerebral, but if you just take out your calculator and do exactly what I just did and just know that I think that's minimum, but we're not going to go back to the days of like, oh, it's fine. It's, gold's $300 an ounce again. Like that ship has sailed. I think we're in the last gold rush. There's actually a great book called The Last Gold Rush Ever. It came out last year. And I thought it was written really, really well. And they were right. I mean, because you talk about, and you and I have discussed this, where this is the record year of central banks and governments ordering gold from around the world. They've broken since 1944. This is the record year. And they're not advertising that. Like these countries aren't advertising that.
I'd like to bring up at the same time, even though Basel III has been pushed back a little bit, that's still happening. So paper gold, the central banks can no longer hold the paper gold. If they want to own gold, which they are buying, they have to buy it in its physical form and secure it in a safe location. So the idea of, these paper metals, they will continue to exist. But as far as the central bank being able to press a button to move some money around, it won't work that way within the next couple of years.
Yeah, what do you see happening? Because everybody asks me, like, when's gold going to go up? And that's the same question that Peter gets all the time. And my answer is, I don't care. I don't really care how many dollars. Like because I'm not trying to turn it into dollars. That's just me.
Exactly.
I'm a long-term holder of precious metals. To me, that's when people say, well, how much money am I going to make if I buy gold or silver? I'm like, well, gold and silver are money, so that's your starting point. Kind of have to change your paradigm.
Slowly over time, they are going up, but you're not going to see monumental moves in precious metals until the world is on fire. Right now, it's really bad, and you're watching a big circus, but it's not on fire yet. That's when precious metals will move, and kind of a little bit like a rocket. I'm not going to say like how cryptos move, and honestly, I'm willing to say that if cryptos did not exist, you would see a lot more movement inside of the precious metals sector. Me and my partner were actually doing some math the other night, and all of the stimulus and the money and things that have gone out to people, especially during kind of these times that are getting harder and harder. The younger generations, they understand that there is something wrong with this economy. They understand that there's something wrong with how we transact. And that is why they are going to cryptos. If those didn't exist, you would probably see it in the precious metal space. But, this is why I think that you have to own both. You have to play both sides of the field, even if you don't like one or the other.
Yeah, that's why we did this
Diversification is
show.
so important.
That's why you and I launched this show. because there's not anybody ever put it together. It's one or the other.
Mhm.
And we're saying both because it's the end of the fiat currency scam. A lot of these, the current political climate, a lot of these operations going around the world are to get you to take your eye off of what they've done, the house of cards
Exactly.
that they built. And they'll use anything as a cover, right? They'll use famine, disease, climate. They'll use it all, right? Anything but what they've actually done to impoverish mankind with endless printing and then all the
Mhm.
evil that they're able to loose upon the world with their fiat currency system. I talked about that last week. I'm going to talk about that every week. That's the biggest story. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It would be a different world without crypto. I
Mhm.
guess I wouldn't be doing the show though, because I mean honestly, I owe Satoshi Nakamoto a debt of gratitude because it bailed me out. Bitcoin saved my entrepreneurial life. Might have saved my physical life. I don't know. I mean, I invested in Bitcoin in 2016. I bought my first machine. I didn't get them, by the way. I was every cent I had. It's $12,000. I went and closed a real estate deal, and I bought 2 Bitcoin ATMs that never arrived. But I started a company, and I kept moving forward to the best of my brother went out and got his first machine. Now he's got a great company called Tau Bitcoin. He's got, I don't know how many machines he's got. He built this little empire for himself, doing a great job.
Mhm.
And I learned a lot from that. And I mean, just gold and silver are, my go-to, but I'm really thankful for crypto, and it's been good to me. It's been good to a lot of people. Look, all the people it's enriched. See, the dollar never really did much for me. It stole from me because if I save them, I can buy less things with them now. Like I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, if you just saved the silver quarters instead of saving the dollar, like the printed dollar, how far ahead of the ball would you be? Because a lot of people are
Mhm.
told to save, right, Kenzie?
Exactly, and it doesn't get you anywhere. And whenever I was 18, 19 years old, and that's around the same time I was buying gold, silver, and I was getting into crypto. So same around 2015, 2016. And I've just had the same pattern ever since. And it's helped us on many different occasions, whether I need to, oftentimes I'll just invest into myself. So when I need equipment for the shows that we do, the show that I do, dental work, things like this that are all too expensive, I've been very happy that I've diversified where I put my money, because the last thing I wanted to do was keep that in dollars. And time again, I am kind of I'm reminded of like why I keep doing this, because sometimes I feel like maybe this isn't the best thing to do. I don't know. Sometimes you just second guess yourself. But time and time again, something happens in my life where I go, man, I'm glad that I moved my money around and I've got it in a couple of different places, because it just sitting under my mattress would have done nothing for me today. Nothing.
Yeah, and that's a big paradigm shift for people, and that's why we're like a gateway drug. This podcast, this radio show, this is a gateway. We're like the marijuana of gold and silver podcast, or gold and crypto, right? Because we want you to look. This is level one. I mean, this is for everybody. We're gonna give you some top stories, but we're not so into the weeds and into the numbers and into the data that your eyes are gonna glaze over. I'll do big picture stuff, and then you're the deep dive. You're the person that you spend so much time researching and doing stuff that I can't, right? And so that's what you're so valuable. We love having you here. And we're going to get to some of your research on the second half of the show. I got some headlines I want to tackle, and we'll do gold and silver spot prices. But this is funny, right? Every week it's the comedy of the markets and the clown show. You got Market Watch. Gold settles lower as traders await Fed policy decision. Woo, they're waiting. They're waiting to find out what the what the wizard is going to do. Um, Follow the yellow brick road. Gold futures settled lower on Tuesday, the first day of a 2-day meeting of the Federal Reserve that's expected to see policymakers lay out plans to begin reducing its monthly bond purchases. They're going to start tapering, Kenzie. We're going to rein things in. Don't you worry. Uh, any thoughts on this?
I am willing to bet that they will do a teeny tiny, I mean, minuscule amount of tapering. The markets will freak out. They will freak out. And that's when the main half, you remember I said we were in the circus? That's the main show, baby. So buckle up because this is going to get fun.
It's the three-ring circle. Yeah, it's funny because I was looking at. I remember hosting on Infowars live and on the David Knight show, and gold. I had Gerald Celente on, and then gold broke its all-time high. Like, because I've been watching gold for years and years. I'm like, I'm live on air while gold breaks its all-time. Then it's pulled back, and I'm thinking, how did it do that? How did the yellow metal retreat from its all-time high, knowing that we're so much worse off? And that's when you can see like the insider manipulation, the move to get people to pay attention to the casino of the known as the stock market, right? They wanted people to pay attention over there. I've noticed that. And every time I hear some of this talk about tapering, I go, whoa, 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 guys, the Fed, right? They're not going to do anything. This isn't your father's Fed, even if it's never been good, right? It's a diabolical demonic entity, but they used to pull back a little bit. Like you talk about, Peter Schiff mentioned Paul Volcker back in the late 70s in the Carter administration. They raised interest rates to lower the money supply to curtail inflation. They can't do that now. Everything's built on debt, right? We used to have
everything. You have to every single year. You have to. It doesn't matter what president's in office or who controls what. You have to have more debt because if you don't, the music stops.
Right. So everything used to, and I tell this all the time, but when people look at business, and I'm like, I'm not an expert, but used to companies made money. Like they would have to serve a customer. And now you look at the stock market, it's full of these companies that they're not even in the black. They're not, they're not profitable.
Musk himself says that Tesla stock is way overpriced. I mean, they could not sell everything that they had today in Tesla and have what their stock is worth. Like it doesn't work as far as market cap goes.
I agreed. And this goes with a lot of these big tech stocks, and they're so overpriced. It's like 1,000 times earnings. And I learned this back in the 90s as a kid. My dad would tell me, because he never invested in the stock market. He just buy more real estate, build another store, buy a small restaurant. That's what physical things. And he would tell me about the stock market valuations. This is before the .com bubble burst. And he was like, they're valuing these things like 1,000 times earnings. He's like, if they value my business as 1,000 times earnings, I'd be a billionaire. Like I'd be a multi-billion. I'm like, that is true, right? So they inflate all these things because it's part of the club. Like you need these multinational corporations to carry out a lot of the policies for the Fed and for the government, because they're linked now. They're the same, right?
It's one body, yes.
It's one body. And what a lot of people don't realize, I was paying attention to this before COVID-19 84 and before the lockdowns, before all this stuff, right? And they were quietly pumping in trillions in the overnight markets, the repo markets. And I didn't know it was trillions until I actually got a copy of an article. Somebody had traced back every deposit that the Fed made. It was $6 trillion. This is between September and December before the pandemic thing, right? They did $6 trillion.
Still going on today, because I think that was purposeful. The timing of everything, the repos had started just before then. If normal people had an understanding of what that meant as far as overnight liquidity, they would be, what's that quote about if you really knew what was going on in the banking system, you would pull all your money out today? Yeah, if people got an idea, that would have happened. But throw in a big circus show that we've all bought tickets and entered into, and all of that kind of goes away. The repos are still happening today. In fact, they've actually doubled, quadrupled the amount of liquidity that's out there, and what they're allowed to move around just keeps going up, which is just a house of cards.
Yeah. And so that's the long way of saying we're all going to have to put on our big boy pants and big girl pants, because it's not going to get better. They're going to run the entire financial system is going to get run into the ground, because that's what their plan is, obviously, or they would do something about it.
Open. Great reset, right?
Great reset. Klaus Schwab, he's a great reset. out in the World Economic Forum, and they're all getting together, all these CEOs and multinationals, and hey, you will own nothing and you will be happy. This is their plan. And the creative destruction comes to mind. The two words, creative destruction. So we're going to talk about that, and this is look. It's an ongoing war too. This is humanity, the people versus the plutocrats. If you know what a plutocrat is, these masters of the so-called masters of the universe, just because they have control of assets and money supply, doesn't mean that they're God Almighty, but they can make all the plans they want, and we're exposing them. This is. I love seeing Bitcoin made a huge move today. We'll talk about that in the second half of the show. Before I went to spot prices, I wanted to ask you. I did some searching. I have a little bit of news on silver, but I wanted to get your opinion. Silver and gold both down today. This is the clown world too, because I'm seeing longer and longer delays for actually getting physical silver. It's the only thing in the world that goes down in price when you can't find it. Any news on anything you're seeing on silver?
No, it's another slap in the face. They throw a couple of bits and pieces out into the mainstream media, right? That makes everything all pretty and sound good. And, oh, well, that's why metals are down. But in reality, if you're looking at what's going on, I mean, it is an opportunity to buy. I have a good feeling your dealers or whoever you buy from aren't moving around as much as the markets are. You wouldn't be able to stay afloat that way, but it's just madness, Tony. I mean, we know that it's madness.
And then people come in and they're like, well, the spot price is X. And I'm like, yes, the spot price has nothing to do anymore with the physical price. In my opinion, I think those untethered a year ago.
Well, and these have to be newer folks anyway, because you have to understand spot price is what it's going for right the moment it comes off a boat and turns into a coin. That is spot price. That raw silver, raw gold, that spot. That doesn't account for making your coin, the transportation, getting it to your shop, securing it. That doesn't account for everything else. So think about how small those profit margins really are whenever you think about everything else that comes with having to secure those metals.
Yeah, they're razor thin. Razor thin. And I see, I'm trying to make moves right now to prepare for longer and longer waits. That's what I keep telling people. I'm like, if you have the ability to get into some physical metals now, and this isn't, again, I have to always do this disclaimer because I'm not telling you you're going to make a million. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't ever want to be one. But this would be a good time because it's kind of a calm before the storm in a lot of ways. You've got a very volatile fiat currency system that's worldwide. A very shaky geopolitical system. You got the dumbest people in the history of the world running our planet by design, right? These are morons, meat puppets by design who run things, and it can't end well. So it's not. No. I'm sorry, it's not going to get better. It'll get worse before it gets better. I think though there's some bright spots on the horizon. There are some silver linings, right? And that's not really a pun. There are some silver linings because more and more I have you call them normies or regular people. I put this podcast up on my business website, wisewolf.gold. I mean, people need to know who they're doing business with. I don't mind. They can know that I talk to you. We both, have custom tinfoil hats, but we've been right about a lot of stuff. And people come in, they're like, hey, I'm new to this. I want to buy some physical gold. What does it cost? How long does it take? Well, what do you recommend? I just don't believe I should leave my money in the bank. I'm like, look, I'm not telling you to take your money out of the bank. I'm not doing that. But I will say that it is a very dangerous time to have normalcy bias. Where you think like, oh, it's always been good, so it's always going to be good. That's just not the way things are. There's a big shakeup going on. There's a reason.
Well, and it hasn't been good for a long time. It just turns really, really bad so slow that you get comfortable and used to it. That's the idea. When people are telling you about frogs in a boiling pot, jump out now. Get out of the pot now. It's not boiling yet, but we're pretty close.
Yeah, we better jump out of the pot if you haven't noticed that it has been boiling for a while. So let's do this. Let's cover spot prices. And I'll give you guys in real time what we're looking at here on spot. You can go to wisewolf.gold, by the way, and you can get the spot price in real time for precious metals today. Gold at 1,784 Luciferian Bankster notes per troy ounce. That's 1,784 fiat Federal Reserve notes per troy ounce for the yellow metal. Silver's down $23.49 per troy ounce for the white metal, down 50 cents or so. Crazy because last time I checked, let me tell you, you know what the delay is, Kinsey, for generic 1 ounce silver rounds from the Dallas Gold and Silver Trading Floor, the regional hub for all dealers? You want to know what the delay is?
I would love to know.
Unknown.
What?
It's unknown delay. That's what it says on the website. I'm looking at it right now.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's the only commodity in the world, folks, that goes down when no one can find it. They did this earlier this year. For those of you who don't know, there was a people that tried to do the GameStop, the Reddit raiders, and a lot of the people got together in February. And I'd never got so many calls in my life, people trying to get physical silver. It only lasted for about 48 hours. People trying to drive up the physical price of silver. So people just bought all the silver there was everywhere, and the price went down. I did not expect that. I'm cynical, but I didn't expect that. And you know why? I looked at it later. They had the people that control the contracts of silver that's debatable whether it's even there or not. They control the contracts. Kinsey would know more than me on this. But they sold 1.5 times the annual supply of silver in one day to get that price to come down. They don't want you to know where to look.
Yeah, the silver wasn't there. And this is why it's so important. Now, if there's a tax reason that you want to go and buy or hold some form of paper silver, okay, I don't think that it's the best. You should really look into, making sure what's yours is yours. But they are allowed to move those blocks of silver around whatever way that they want to. And plenty of people have gone and verified this, because whether it be a tiny coin or a kilo, if someone else is holding your silver for you, there should be a serial number there. And if your serial numbers are changing, or they don't even want you to go and look at what you're supposed to own, you need to run away. If you don't hold it, you don't own it, right?
Absolutely.
That's just my 2 cents.
It's physical, baby. That's what you got to look at it. This is old school, old rules, right? And we're going to talk about digital too, because there are digital signatures. There is such a thing as having like physical, I guess not physical Bitcoin, but it's off of the net. You get your hard wallets, and you can really speak to that too. But that may become more and more necessary as we look at more of the encroachment into your liberties. And you're going to talk a little bit about Coinbase here in just a minute. But I wanted to call out the chat before we go in. This is really the second half of the show. We didn't even do a commercial tonight, Kinsey. No break. We don't need one. At least not. Usually, you and I really cover a lot of ground. So let's go to the chat. And this is, folks, for the Aftermath.fm listeners. I will get to your chat very, very soon. I'm not in there yet, so I'm just calling out the chat that's in social media and that's related to the stream that Kinsey and I do. We got Matthew Henry, always a great listener. He says golden crypto. Jim Chambers says Peter Schiff is like the man with a broken clock when he's right, and the rest of the time we're just waiting for to come up again. He's talking about gold. Matthew Henry says, do you mean Trump could have been part of the inflation problem? Yeah. yeah. Every president.
That money was printed when he was in office.
That's right.
I might have hit a few buttons there. Sorry, but the truth needs to be told.
That's okay. You say the truth. Marshall Topola. Isn't their plan to put us on a central bank digital currency? Yes, it is. And yes. Kinsey will speak to that. It's part of the Great Reset. It's part of you'll eat bugs and be happy, live in your pod. Big trend, the most wealth transferred in the history of mankind. Yeah, that's what that's all about. Raybo Ghosted, and one of our regular listeners, and he asked, when are we on? This is 7 p.m. Central Time, Tuesdays, and this is a simulcast here on Aftermath.fm, and you can find the Wise Wolf Golden Crypto Show anywhere podcasts are found. And I mean, we'll be on the technocratic platforms while it lasts, folks. Okay, it won't be forever. I decided to I do somewhat version of my radio show. Like if you really want to hear me go off the rails, you can tune into the Arterburn radio transmission. But that's for another time. We're going to continue to go down some of the deep dive research, and so we got a little bit of time left. Kinsey, let's go over some of your articles that you sent me, and then I'll let you have the floor because I've talked enough. What you got?
I have to talk about the metaverse. This might take up a good bit of our
Go ahead.
time, but Facebook changing its name to Meta. First of all, they might not even be able to do this unless they want to pay a ton of money, because most smart people have already gone in and either NFT'd, so they own it in an NFT form, or right out bought the domain, because we knew years ago that Meta and Metaverse would be a big deal. I think that they're asking 20-something million, but come on, this is Zuckerberg. I would actually clap my hands if you got $1 billion out of him so he could have Meta. Up your game a bit there. But I wanted to talk about this because the last couple of shows, I actually talked a little bit about NFTs because I was not in them a couple of years ago. That's still kind of new to me, and I have a better understanding of them. So the whole idea of Facebook changing its name to Meta, which most of you guys are probably thinking of either the word death, which it means in some other language, but more importantly, your metadata, every little bit that Facebook has been gaining on you for years. Anyway, I find this name to be extremely appropriate. Now, they've also been trying to get into the crypto space for quite a while. So this is them actually breaking up the company so they could do that, I believe. And also the NFT type world. So some of you guys might have heard of something like Decentraland, and the currency that goes with that, Mana, just skyrocketed the other day. It was actually quite nice. I think that Facebook is going to make their own version of this. And I like seeing normal people like you or me, Tony. If we've got some young, smart developers out there that want to create some games or virtual reality, although I don't like it, go for it. But when a big company like Facebook is getting involved, I get a little bit nervous. I had sent you some of my research on that too. The word metaverse, originally, when it was first used, came from a book that was written in 1992 by Neil Stephenson. The book was called Snow Crash. It's not a great book, but it is kind of dystopic if you're into that sort of stuff. And the idea here actually goes along with you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. See, the idea here is that you're going to be able to step into this virtual world where you could have almost anything, right? But in this virtual world, everything is going to have to be an NFT for you to own it. So if you come in late into this world, it's going to be just as crappy as the normal world that you're in now. And that's actually what that book, Snow Crash, pointed out. So this is one of the reasons I would say, if you can figure this stuff out and be kind of early to the show, I think that gives you a little bit more flexibility in the future. And you never even have to step into the metaverse if you don't want to. I don't plan on doing that. I haven't yet. I know about it, but yeah, this is all too creepy. I don't really like it, Tony. I don't like the way that it's going or the direction that it's going in.
Yeah, this
you
really
mentioned
came out of
pod
left
people.
field. I mean, and they've been talking about this metaverse. You know, it's funny. The next show on Aftermath.fm is the Infinite Fringe with the great Billy Ray Valentine. He's been talking about the metaverse for a while. He's been talking about the virtual reality. And yeah, Zuckerberg, you know, he's all into the virtual reality, the VR goggles and all this stuff. They tried to launch Libra, and they wanted to do it in a way that was like synced up with the government, synced up with the central banks, and to, I guess, to be their partner in surveillance, you know, and
Exactly.
and it crashed because and it's funny because like Jerome Powell, head of the Federal Reserve, will come out and say, oh, well, you don't need Bitcoin or crypto or any of these things now because we're going to create a central bank digital currency. So we'll take care of you. Like, why do you need that? Right. It's like we
That's
created
exactly
these things
what
to
we
get away
don't
from you.
want.
Right. We don't want, yeah, crypto's not fun. It's the purpose is lost if you guys are in control of it. Like, we don't want like psychopaths, criminals in charge of our hard-earned money and our savings, like in our worth. Like, we want you out of the picture. So yeah, that is interesting. And of course, Meta, like the term metaphysical, like I believe isn't it in the Greek? It means like outside or other. Like, I think that's where that you get that term too.
Oh, it has many, many weird meanings to it. And it can all just go back to like the worst nightmare that you've ever had. And Zuckerberg is there. This is what I'm seeing. And I really don't like it. I mean, this book, if you have a chance to read it, guys, Snow Crash, I think that this will detail what's coming as far as Facebook's version of a metaverse just perfectly. And we can go ahead and skip over that. I did want to mention, though, that Coinbase and FTX are entering the NFT space. I think that this is huge because the other night, while the World Series game is on, I think that they have FTX sponsorships. Tom Brady's in on it. It's that commercial that you're seeing where Brady jumps into Bitcoin or something. So this is kind of, Wall Street welcoming these sort of things. All over Times Square right now, there's actually NFTs because it's NFT New York City this week. It is gaining a lot of popularity, and I'm not saying jump onto something because it's popular, but if you have an understanding of the navigation of things, it's not a bad idea to kind of dip your toes in the water and see what's going on there, just to be able to keep up.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, because that was like 2 shows ago that you brought up NFTs, and you've been schooling me on that. And like it or not, like this is the space. The reason why the crypto part of the show is really important is this is like the emerging space. Like gold and silver are money from thousands of years ago. They always will
And it
be. They always
always
will
will be,
have. They
yeah.
always will be. But this is an emerging space that's being like it's being born. It's being launched into reality, into the zeitgeist, and that's why you need to pay attention to this, because the central banksters and the powers that be hate this. I mean, they want you to they want to regulate it, destroy it. You like look at El Salvador, this tiny country adopts Bitcoin as legal tender, and then the International Monetary Fund and the Bank of International Settlements and all these big, supranational bodies start attacking El Salvador
Well,
and trying to
and
get
I
other
just
countries too.
I hate the idea of notice how government is trying to keep up with this right now because they need to maintain control. That idea of you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. We see the you'll own nothing part. I don't think any of us can agree that we would be happy at that point. But this is another reason why I want to see crypto thrive and continue to do what it's doing, because this puts power back into the people's hands. I know that people see it as, this government takeover and whatever it may be. Look closely into what you're getting into. I can see that side as well. But this is why it's important. Earlier we said if you don't hold it, you don't own it with gold and silver. Same with these cryptos, and depending on what platforms you're using, Coinbase has contracts with the government. Every little bit I think it's as little as $2,000 that's being moved around on Coinbase, and it's flagged. Your data is sent out. It could be less than that at this point, and that's kind of an issue. Whenever you see some of these platforms being so welcomed on Wall Street, being welcomed by the government, I would say steer clear of those to a degree. It's okay to dip your toes in the water if that's what you need to learn on. I learned on Coinbase and branched out from there. But I don't know. You have to be able to hold it. And I get it right now. People don't understand the craze. Why are they spending, as far as the NFTs go, why would anybody pay $3 million for a piece of artwork or for a photo, a JPEG photo? It's because they own it. I get it. It's outrageous. I would obviously never spend that there. But I want to bring up, if we can put the power back into the people's hands, the smart contracts is what I want people to be able to focus on here. How many times, which I know somebody personally that has lost their home from the bank because they had their paperwork that said that they owned that home, but oops, the bank lost it. So now what do? How do you fight them with that? You can't say that you own that home, not even with your paperwork. That's not enough. Same with insurance or cars that you might have, and titles and deeds and all these things that have to be a part of our lives today, or some people might even say are a luxury. I'm not so sure about that, but if you could take that NFT space and say that you own that land outright with that, and nobody can change that, like the deed, whatever it may be, it's held in a wallet somewhere. That's power. That means something, and no other entity can ever corrupt that or change that. There is so much corruption out there today, guys, that this is why I believe in this space and what's going on today. Just my 2 cents on that.
No, and I appreciate the info very, very much, because look, your research on crypto, and you've taught me a lot. Because I mean, I saw Bitcoin as a novice, and I went, this makes sense. You know, even way before this, folks, way before, the radio shows, I was going, they're printing the money. We don't have a gold standard. I mean, what's wrong? I mean, what's going to happen ultimately to the dollar? Well, we're finding out. We're going to all find out what Weimar Germany learned a long, long time ago.
The whole reason I decided to get into crypto, because I had been buying a little bit of gold and silver. I had just a little tiny bit in the beginning, but then I started kind of getting scared, because I was thinking, what if gold and silver get left behind somehow? I was like, I really don't believe that could happen, but what if it did? And at this point, I'm kind of happy that I thought that way, because crypto is a smaller, as far as the money that I put in, much, much smaller than other things out there, but the percentage back can't be argued with, which means I can then buy more gold and silver. I can buy more land. I can put that into something that's useful to me, right?
I want to read you. Yeah, absolutely.
It's just crazy.
I want to read you the headlines off Cointelegraph. This is from 6 hours ago. Ethereum price hits a new high above 4,500, right as Bitcoin recaptures $64,000 per Bitcoin. That's really the big news and the highlights from crypto. But you had you were talking about Squid Coin. You sent me a link to that. Talk a little bit about it. So when we say we embrace the crypto space, right? We embrace this future technology that's going on right now, this big change, right? There's gonna be bumps in the road.
The bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
So talk about it.
All right. So this was a scam from day one. This is not a coin that you could have got on any of your normal trading platforms. You kind of have to go to some other spots to get this coin, which there are successes from this place, guys. But if you're going to invest into anything, do your research first. A lot of people lost a lot of money because of this, and I actually saw it coming. So there was a digital currency called Squid Token or Squid Game Coin, something like that, from the Netflix show, right? So I like investing too with things that are popular, but I did not like the way that this one was launching and how it looked. The team was anonymous. It just was not good. So this was launched in late October. It skyrocketed. The coin actually made it to $2,860. So over $2,000 per token. And it lost all of its value. It went to zero in seconds, guys. This coin actually helped the market cap for crypto all around go up. And the people of this token, the way that they did it, Tony, is the token was made into a smart contract. I love smart contracts, but this is how people can mess you up. If you don't have the ability to move that contract around, then you're screwed. No one that bought this coin was able to sell it, Tony. The only people that could sell were the developers, because they had the code or the knowledge on how to move that contract around and cash it out. So people were funneling money into something that would have never existed. The people that came up with it got over $3 million at the end of the day. They walked away with that. It was really sad. It was really sad. Just be careful, guys.
When you have a new emerging space, you're always going to have this. And that one of the reasons that Bitcoin is appealing is because it's finite. Like, you just can't make new Bitcoins. There's only so many in the system that will ever exist. People are participating in it around the world with the mining and everything else. And so there's a foundation for Bitcoin. Then you look at some of the other coins that do things, like look at Litecoin, and Litecoin's had a decent history, and it's
the silver of crypto.
Right. It just kind of doesn't go anywhere. I mean, I bought into some Litecoin around 80, and I think it was like 200 last time I checked. just a little bit, but it's fast. It confirms very quick. Like you could use that as your daily purchasing, like because it's something that's be like really quick, whereas Bitcoin takes a while to confirm.
That's why Solana is really kind of popping off. I think as far as the gas fees go, that's the big holdup with Ethereum, right? You do see the price going up, but the gas fee to move that token around, it just doesn't make sense, which they're good building blocks. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, excellent building blocks, but there will be better things in the future. That does not mean that these tokens are going to go away, though. As society develops and gets more into this sort of space, because it is a baby, I think it will be more of the store of wealth versus other things out there being used for utility.
What do you think about meme coins? What do you think about the future of Shiba Coin?
I love it. I called you and told you I was in Shiba so you could tell me how terrible it was. And now it seems like you're in it too.
Yeah, I own a little bit. I own a little bit of Dogecoin. If it's got a dog on it, I'm going to buy it, man.
I'm gonna, put it all in. There's a rap song for that. Look up the Dog Money.
Oh,
rap song.
Remy. Yeah, over at Reason Magazine. That's a funny song.
I mean, it seems silly, and I did not put a lot into this coin, guys, but I can't think of any other time where in a couple of months I was up over 900%.
You think it's going to go to a cent?
No, I don't. I actually don't think that I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I don't think so. I just bought it to be a part of the ride, right? Like I put my couple bucks in, and it's just like, this is funny. I can say that I hold it. I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. And now I'm just like, I did take out my initial investment, by the way, and then a couple bucks more. But I'm just going to watch and see what it does now. Now I have no risk. My initial investment has been cashed out. So I'm just watching where it goes from here.
All right. Well, that's fine. That's an honest answer. We're not pushing anything. I'm not making anything off people buying crypto. I just think it's a fun space. If you're not, you can't go in there blindly and just put all your money into something. I look at some of these meme coins and they've gone up. Like, it's just like, if you'd have known about them, right? Well, some of them, like the Shiba coin person had put 8,000, like they're calling it the greatest trade in the history of mankind. Supposedly, right? Somebody put $8,000 in Shiba coin in August of 2020, and now they're worth like 8 billion or something, or some insane number, right? But they can't cash that out. I mean, you crush the whole system. So like you devalue all of your, it would be catastrophic to try to cash. That's why that is something
Bitcoin you need to be careful for with some of these coins out there. Get out when you can while there's liquidity. If you're a person that likes to go and do this, there are people out there walking around with millions of dollars on their wallet somewhere, but they'll never be able to move it because there's zero liquidity in that coin.
Yeah, my goal has just been, I have a Bitcoin ATM in my office, and I just try to get $20, every chance I get, like not multiple times a day, but once a day, maybe. And just use that as a savings. And then every once in a while, if there's some profit taking, I might put it into some gold and silver inventory, but I never turned it into dollars ever.
Yeah. Just keep moving that around in other areas that you need. Everything is a vehicle to me. It's a vehicle to get to another point in my life. And so far it hasn't failed me. But I do, if I'm going to put my money into something, I will spend oftentimes hours. I did not with Shiba. I'll be totally honest with you guys. It was so cheap. It was literally a couple of bucks. But if I'm going to put $100 into something, or even $50 into something, there's a lot of research that comes before that happens, because you need to know what you're investing in.
We got about 4 minutes left. Let me ask you a question. And this is just your predictions. I like to end the show with predictions and what to look for. We're seeing these price increases and crypto's kind of going crazy. Gold and silver flat, because we know the reason why, the manipulation and all the rest. But do you feel like fiat pumps up the stock market pumps up everything else, and it's fake. So are we at a true valuation right now for something like Bitcoin, BTC, and will all of these others, will most of the shit coins or whatever, for lack of a better term, will they go with a crash? in your opinion, from what you're looking at, your research?
When people cash out of Bitcoin and Ethereum, unless they really have to have the money, so if you're talking about that, then no, you won't see that go anywhere but into US dollars if somebody needs it in that moment. But if there is a crash with Bitcoin, Ethereum, or the top coins that are out there, that money actually rushes into altcoins, typically. Now, something different here could happen, but the small little bit of history that we have actually says, people talk about alt season. That's when people are taking those profits from Bitcoin and Ethereum. And that's not to say that's going to happen every time. Now, if we do have a big stock market crash or the economy really faces a hiccup, if you can hold on to those coins, Bitcoin, I would, because I think a bank, JP Morgan, the others, they're going to come in and buy that stuff up. I got a feeling that's what they're really holding back for is the big wake up call in the crypto market. I wouldn't cash out unless I absolutely had to be honest. I don't want them to have it.
We got, so about like 2 minutes. In your opinion, is Bitcoin cheap or overpriced?
Oh, Tony, I don't know.
I'm putting you on the spot.
I mean, it could go so much. Like, can I see Bitcoin easily hit 150,000 a coin? Sure. But just as easily, we could see it go back to 20K. Never invest what you can't lose. Little bits at a time, guys. Don't put your house on it.
All right, but we're going to close out. I want to read. This is a meme that Kinsey sent me via text. It says, these scam coins are getting crazy. Someone just shilled me one. It's 27 trillion in circulation, unlimited supply cap, only one node, 25% of supply minted in the last 6 months. 1% of holders own 30%. Just kidding. That's the US dollar. Yes, the ultimate shitcoin is fiat currency. Didn't used to be, folks. We used to have a dollar as good as gold, as good as silver. I have some of those old silver dollars. They're fantastic. It feels like money, right? And the new dollars don't feel like that, right? On purpose. That's why I call them they're LBNs. They're Luciferian bankster notes. All right, so we'll be back next week, 7 p.m. Central Time, aftermath.fm. You can also find us on the Technocratic platforms. Just look for Wise Wolf. You can find us on anywhere podcasts are found. That's the Wise Wolf Gold and Crypto Show. Kinsey, 30 seconds. Tell people where they can find you, your magnificent programs.
Fringe Files on YouTube. I actually just got back from suspension, but I have internet issues, so I'll be back soon.
Well, she has a fantastic show. Go subscribe, find Fringe wherever she is. She's going to give you some deep dive research, and you're better off for it. I know that I am. And we'll be back next week, folks. And in a world of fiat reality, the truth is solid gold. See you next time. All right, we're clear from aftermath.fm. Still live. We're still live though, Kinsey. Still live on the Technocratic control platforms. I just wanted to thank the chat. I still got you, Kinsey. Still live with me? Somewhere. We may have lost Kinsey. Well, I'll tell you what, folks. I will check with her. We'll make sure she's doing good. And I'll be back next week, folks. So we appreciate. Share the links if you get a chance. WiseWolf.gold. I should have advertised my own business, but I didn't. So anyway, we'll see you guys soon. Thanks for tuning in.